Hello friends, Namaskar to all. So today we are going to learn some statistical concept using some real world example. And to be specific and honest, we are going to deal with some interesting problem statement of hypothesis testing. Here and there you would keep hearing that hypothesis testing is very essential part of statistics. These days even statistics has been expanded to machine learning, artificial intelligence. I don't know what kind of length it may travel farther. But yes, these things are very important and essential to understand. So let's start with some of the fundamentals. So let me introduce this particular applied statistics topic to you. This statistics is first of all applied mathematics, wherein we play with numbers, data, we have the historical evidences, we can infer some meaningful content which is called as information for the business use. And once we apply those information for the use of the business which can benefit, with which we can solve the problem, that is called the knowledge. So end of the day, any statistics start from a problem statement, data collection, then estimation, testing, prediction, and so on and so forth. That's the basic fundamental of any statistical concept. Having said so, let me also bring this to you that many times we get confused what is artificial intelligence, what is machine learning, and where the statistics is. Of course, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these all are a combination of fundamentals as statistics, definitely, mathematics and computer science all together, and most important, the intuition. Because end of the day, however statistics tells you, the decision maker lies on a pure human being. So that's important thing to understand, that decision maker is nothing but you. But analytics and statistics or AI or ML can help you make decision. That's important thing to start with. So let me also introduce a topic of hypothesis testing. Let me try to motivate this particular topic to you so that you can get some more interest learning this topic. Many times when the problem statement is given to us, it's very important to solve the problem. First of all, to understand the problem, and to solve the problem, collect the better evidences, some substantial evidences. So what are those evidences? So let's start with this problem statement, right? We'll come to the topic little later. So problem statement is very much relevant as of today. After 1st of May, Indian government has 2021, Indian government has started the jab for 18 plus years vaccination. So you know that there's a shortage of vaccine going on. So this is the health personnel. This is a hypothetical problem statement. It can be applicable for some cases as well. But yes, so jab drive has started, but the challenge of this program is this, that a medical officer is promising, yes, we are there to vaccinate, provided the age of this particular group which I am going to vaccinate. Let's take an example of a class or a college. So this college age, average age, has to be significantly more than 18 years. If there are people below 18 years, why should I come and plan this jab or this vaccination drive? So that's a problem statement in our hand. Now we have to check whether the average age of this particular college is more than 18 years or not. So the problem statement is given to us. It says that is the class age or the college age, average age, is greater than 18 years. Are they adult enough or not for their vaccination? Because vaccination can be planned only if the average age is significantly greater than 18 years. That is the challenge in hand. That's the problem statement in hand. So for that we start with the data collection. We collected the data of all the, let's say there are 100 students in the college, for all the 100 students, and we try to see what is the average age there, right? And yes, we collected the roll number wise all the students age, and we got to see that yes, some of the students are having the age of 19 years, 21 years, 17, 18 and so on and so forth. But when we calculate the average age, it is coming approximately about 19 years. So if the question is asked, that this particular question, that if the average age is greater than 18 years or not, now you have already gotten average age is 19 years. So is 19 greater than 18 or not? So that's a question in hand. And let's assume if you don't know statistics, what would be the answer? Yes, you would say yes. The answer to this question is yes. But there is a problem. Even this yes has a question mark. What is a question mark? This yes you are able to say and or tell just because you have collected a sample of these 100 people. But the problem is there are people who are below even 18 years. So there could be many people, right? So can we still say that on an average, because the question is on an average, is it greater than 19 years or not? So there's a dilemma here. So we cannot say confidently that yes, whatever age you have gotten, since this is the average age and since this is based on the sample, this is just a representative data, this is just a sample wherein you would have a lot of variation, right? There are people who are below 18, there are people even above 18, there are people also 18. So can we confidently say? If at all yes, then how confident we are? That is a question. That's where we need to test. That's where, so as I said to you, the problem statement is given to us. Our task starts from a data collection that we have done, right? Coming to the next is the estimation part. We estimate the average age of the student in hand. We have done that. So that's the estimation part. Of course, along with this estimation of the average, which is a simple mean, right? We also have their representation in terms of dispersion. So one of the measures of dispersion is the standard deviation, right? So let's say standard deviation according to my data somewhere comes out to be 2, right? And the sample size, which is called as a n technically, so this is represented, this is given as 100, right? So we have all the details in hand. Let's get started. So we need to do, once the estimation is done, we need to do the testing. After testing, there's the next step that is called prediction, where all the modeling task and your AI and ML, all those stuff come into play. But again, I'm making it clear this point that yes, hypothesis testing is a fundamental of statistics. Any prediction happens only after this steps. All the problem statement of be it AI, ML, applied analytics, advanced analytics, everything starts with a problem statement, data collection, estimation, testing, and then prediction. We are trying to learn in today's lecture this part of testing. We need to test whatever data that we have gathered. Is this correct enough? Can we rely on this particular estimate? Because this is called an estimate, because this is based on the sample, right? So that's where once we have this estimate, we need to test it. So let's start this testing exercise, whether the average age is greater than 18 years or not, so that I can plan a JAG. So for that, we have to have a distribution, because once we arrange this data in a distribution format, so we can make a two-dimensional plot. Typically, we call it histogram, right? Roughly we can say. So this x-axis is nothing but the age, right? We can distribute the age buckets, and this is nothing but the relative frequency. Relative frequency is also known as a probability. So let's say starting from the minimum age could be as less as 14 years, let's assume, and then you have a distribution from 14 to 16, then 16 to 18, 18 to 20, and so on and so forth. So typically, since you have collected the data, and it is assumed that it will typically follow a kind of a bell curve, which is also coming from a center limit theorem of a statistics theory, right? So this bell curve can be assumed given this large sample size of 100 people in hand, right? So we can assume this a bell curve. Now that's where we have gotten average age of 19 years. So there is this hypothesis we need to form. So whatever question in hand given to us, right, that becomes our challenging or alternate hypothesis, right? So in this case, first of all, there is alternative hypothesis, and opposite to that is a null hypothesis. That is why this entire exercise is called the hypothesis testing. So your null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis have to be defined first. So the alternative hypothesis is the question in hand, which says that your average age is greater than 18 years. That has to be tested. So what is the assumption that a medical officer or anybody would have at the beginning? Is this? No, it is not. So opposite of alternate, which is nothing but a mutual exclusive event, is age is less than or equal to 18 years. Of course, unit of measurement is years, right? So this is the null hypothesis. Challenging to this is the alternate hypothesis, right? So we need to test whether this is correct. Should I go for this or should I go for this? So that's a question mark in hand. That's where hypothesis testing comes into play. So we know that we can assume a normal distribution of the sample. So we can draw a normal distribution of null hypothesis as well as the alternate hypothesis. So you have this null hypothesis assumption wherein you are assuming that less than or equal to 18 years, that's your null hypothesis, right? So you have 18 years as a mean, right? And then alternate hypothesis says no, it is greater than 18, so somewhere the mean would fall greater than 18. In this case you have already found out 19 years, so obviously it would lie on the right hand side. So the distribution, since it has shifted to the rightward, so distribution, let me use a different color so that it will make clear that there is different distribution of alternate hypothesis. So this is your alternate hypothesis. So to be specific, this is your HA, which is alternate hypothesis, which has to be tested, and this is your null hypothesis under which we are going to test. Always remember, null hypothesis is the status quo. Let me give you another example of a batsman. Whenever batsman gets into the run out situation, whenever the dilemma has to be fixed by the umpire, what umpire does? It assumes always, they assume always, be it umpire or third umpire, they assume not really. That means the batsman is not out. So whenever they are not able to decide, in those days when the technology was used not to be that precise, this you assume, okay, let's give benefit of doubt to the batsman. And this used to be the phrase, isn't it? The benefit of doubt goes to the batsman. And that's where, if at all any doubt comes in this testing, the benefit would be deserved by null hypothesis. So this is our batsman, remember. And alternative hypothesis is your HA, right? So you have already defined your alternate hypothesis, and this is going to be the mean. So if you don't know statistics, obviously anybody would say yes, 19 is greater than 18, so it is on the rightward side. But we know that there are people on left hand side also, that means less than 18 years as well, right? That's the question in hand. Now, should we go ahead with H0 or HA? Should we go ahead with null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis? That is a question in hand, correct? So for that, the hypothesis testing has to be done. What is to be done? We need to check the distribution and ascertain which distribution we are going to rely on. So since this is your this is nothing but the right hand side testing, right? Because we are testing for the right hand, if the age is greater than 18 years or not, because we are testing for the right hand side, right? If it is greater than 18 years, yes, we will go ahead with HA, but we need to check what is the confidence, because always remember, y-axis is nothing but the probability, right? So more the y-axis, more you travel on the y-axis, it is nothing but the probability density in normal distribution, because technically this is also called as a probability density function, PDF, and area belongs to the probability. Okay, so this particular your area, if you fall somewhere here on the rightward, right? So what does this area mean? This is very important to understand in hypothesis testing. So this area means that you have found out a sample somewhere here and you are testing, right? So this is the probability value. This is also called as a p-value. If you don't go ahead with null when it is true, if you don't go ahead with null when it is true, that means you are committing type 1 error. I repeat, if you go ahead with null when it is true, actually, if you don't know, you have to test it. If you go ahead with the H0, if you don't go ahead with the H0 when it is true, it is called type 1 error, because you are relying on the right hand side, you are relying on the HA, that is alternate hypothesis, right? Vis-a-vis, if you go ahead with H0 when it is false, right? So this particular area, this entire area, this is called your type 2 error. This is called your type 2 error. So we need to test whether there is a type 1 error, how much we are committing the type 1 error, and how much is the type 2 error, right? So let me give you example of this type 1 error and type 2 error. What are these? Using a very popular case of guilty, not guilty. So let's take that example. In a court trial, typically whenever any prisoner, not a prisoner exactly, whenever any accused, not the guilty, because accused until proven guilty, he is innocent, he or she is innocent. When they are present, when he or she is presented in front of the judge in the court, in the trial session, Null hypothesis, a judge always assumes that the person who is there in front of the court for the trial is not guilty, innocent, until proven, right? So there are two cases, whether guilty, not guilty, right? So that means it could be H naught and you have your HA. That means your H naught is true or HA is true, which is nothing but opposite of H naught, right? So this could be the reality, that means the real case. And there could be two situations, two outcomes, whether you accept H naught, that means yes, H naught is correct, or whether you reject H naught. Okay, let me write in H naught terms only in order to get rid of the confusion. So H naught is false. If I say H naught, HA is true, that means H naught is false, right? So when you, this is the decision by the judge. So this is the reality and this is the decision. There are two situations of reality, that is H naught is true or H naught is false. Two decisions by the judge or by the court, accept H naught or reject H naught. And H naught null hypothesis, I always say that I say to you that yes, the person is innocent, that means not guilty, right? If court declares yes, he is not guilty, he is ready to accept that null hypothesis, status quo. Is there any problem? No problem. When the person is guilty and the court is also accepting yes, the person is guilty, no problem. Look at this quadrant. What is the problem here? You are saying that actually in the reality, which nobody knows for sure, only the person who has committed the crime, probably he or she might know. When the H naught is true, that does mean that yes, this person is innocent, but unfortunately with the lot of evidences, court declares no, I cannot accept this H naught, he is a guilty person. So that means there is a problem. The court is committing the crime, right, in a way, because you are hanging an innocent person till that which is unacceptable. The same way, when you say that when you accept H naught when he is guilty, that means you are setting off a guilty free. You are acquitted a guilty person, right, when he or she has committed the crime. So in these two cases, there is a problem that lies, given this set of scenario. So there are two errors that you are committing. Now look at this framework very carefully and think which is more dangerous crime. Crime number one, or the mistake number one, or the error number one. When in reality the person is innocent, he or she is hanged till death, or when the person is guilty and he is set free. Yes, you got right. Obviously, it is still affordable that you are setting off a person who is guilty but not acceptable for that matter, but it is more dangerous to hang an innocent. So this particular error here is called type 1 error, right? And opposite of it is called the type 2 error. To be specific, in hypothesis testing, when the H naught is true and you reject it, that is called the type 1 error. That is more concerning. That is why in hypothesis testing, we are more concerned about the type 1 error always, which is this area. In this hypothesis testing, coming back to the age problem, average age problem, you say that yes, this particular average age is greater than 18 years significantly, and actually it is not. That means you will be committing the type 1 error. So that's the whole ball game of hypothesis testing, and this particular distribution is an example. This could be normal distribution. In this case, I have just drawn the very simplistic distribution ever people know, that is the normal distribution. It could be Cauchy, it could be chi-square, it could be F distribution. Based on the different types of distribution, there are different types of testing. I have just given you example of a normal distribution testing framework, which is typically known as a Z-test or T-test. We will talk about this test, what is the difference, and other tests, hypothesis tests also little later session. But important thing to understand, what is the hypothesis testing? So the hypothesis testing is all about testing your estimation, how accurate that is. Can I go ahead with that estimate or not? So coming back to this problem, let's try to solve this problem. We have the numbers in hand, right? So for this hypothesis testing again, and this is the hypothesis, null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Let me use this space, why not, isn't it, to draw the conclusion, to further compute the test statistics. So there is something called as a test statistics, right? So test statistics, if at all we are going ahead with a large sample size and standard deviation is known, we compute the z, which is nothing but we just represent the standard normal distribution, test statistics, which is nothing but your estimated sample mean minus, x bar minus mu divided by standard deviation. So this is a typical formula. Basically, even if you don't know this formula, it doesn't matter. The reason is I'm going to tell you what does it mean. So this is nothing but converting this estimate into standard z distribution. So standard normal distribution which has a 0 mean and which has a standard deviation as 1. Sigma is equal to 1 and mu is equal to 0. That is why, because we have standard table in hand and we are able to relate that and we are able to find the probability. We know the area different values of z. So this is your z value. For different z we have the probability value, and that's where we will be able to compute the p value, right? Type 1 error. So we can compute z. In this case you can compute z. So you know this x bar you have estimated as 19 years minus your mean, that means this value, your hypothesized mean, that is a mu, which is nothing but 18 years, divided by sigma is nothing but how much? It's 2. That's what we have obtained from the sample, right? 2 standard deviation. So what does it imply? It is nothing but 1 by 2. So z is equal to 0.5. Okay. So look at the z table, and this is specific z table given to us, and when you say that z is equal to 0.5, that means somewhere on the right hand side, right, from 0, because 0.5 is greater than 0, so you would lie somewhere here, right? So this particular area, if you look at the table, this particular area, if I just give you a rough estimate, of course the exact value you can get from the table, so the rough estimate you would be able to get is greater. So this particular area, because this area is half, that is 50%, and it would be little less than half, maybe somewhere about 30% or so. So your p value is coming out to be about 30%, not exact, but about 30 to 40%, but for sure less than 50% and greater than 5%. So this is the p value. Now what does it mean? P value means if you reject the null hypothesis, you would be committing 30% of the error. The question lies is this: can I commit this much error? The answer lies with the business, because as I said to you, end of the day it is a business and it is the individual who has to decide on the statistical outcome. So statistical outcome in terms of type 1 error is coming out to be 30%. Let's say in general, when business says yes, I am ready to accept about 5% of the error. So if you are getting 5% of the error within this limit, it's okay, you can go ahead and commit error. What is the meaning of committing error? You can reject the null hypothesis. But if the 5%, which is a standard norm, the 5% is nothing but the fixed significance level, technically they write it as alpha in many statistical books. So if it is more than 5% fixed significance level, then it is not at all a good idea to commit the error, type 1 error. Not at all a good idea. No good idea, right? Not good to commit type 1 error, because you will be committing 30% error, which is not affordable by any business. I cannot afford 30% of the error. If 5%, 2%, 1%, it's okay. But I cannot commit 30% of error given the 5% as a threshold, which is nothing but also called as a significance level technically. This is also called, 5% is also called as a significance level. Okay. So if I can't commit this much error, that does mean that I cannot reject null hypothesis. I cannot reject H naught. What was your H naught? Is this. That means actually the average age is not significantly greater than 18 years. So should I go ahead and tell the medical officer, yes sir, please welcome, my average is significantly greater than 18 years? No. For the jab to be planned, for the vaccination drive to be planned well, as per the requirement, you have to say if it is greater than 18 years or not. In this case, it is not. So better to wait for some more time and maybe your students to grow and reach that level. I am just kidding, but there could be other jibes or other time it can be planned, if at all it is to be prioritized. Okay. So that's about hypothesis testing. So I have just given you example, a very simple example of hypothesis testing using a problem statement of planning a vaccination drive. and if at all greater than 18 years age, average age of this college, yes, we can plan. Of course not. The difference is this: had you not known statistics, you would have said yes, average age is greater than 18 years. Since you know the statistics, because of the dispersion in the data, it is not significantly greater than 18 years. Why it is coming? Because if you remember, we have taken account of the standard deviation. Higher dispersion in the data tells you no, there is some fishy. You cannot go ahead and say 19 is significantly greater than 18. Had the standard deviation be very precise, you would be still able to continue saying that yes, I can reject H0. But here in this case, you could not reject H0. So hypothesis testing gives us a confidence. This is a benefit of hypothesis testing. It has given us a full confidence. Is my sample estimate reliable, correct, to go ahead with the desired result or not? So as per the requirement, you have tested it. Further, next is the prediction, which you can deploy in this framework of the hypothesis. Using this framework of the hypothesis testing. So that's it for today's class. In a nutshell, I have explained the hypothesis testing, the basic of the hypothesis testing: type 1 error, type 2 error, Z distribution. Then you have fixed significance level, observed significance level. You have null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. And that's it for today's session. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.